Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I'm Star Smart. Let's begin. Well, today's news unfolds against the backdrop of shifting power, defiance, and reckoning. From the rising tremors in French Cameroun's political landscape to renewed calls for legitimacy, order, and moral clarity within Ambazonia's Liberation Front. Across borders and battle lines, the winds of accountability are beginning to blow, exposing the fragile walls of systems built on impunity and testing the endurance of leaders who dare to stand firm amid confusion. It is a day where truth speaks louder than politics, where the cries for justice echo beyond boundaries, and where the meaning of leadership and resistance are being redefined in real time. Stay with us as we bring you the stories shaping this defining moment, stories of struggle, survival, and awakening across southern Cameroun's Ambazonia and beyond. Undaunted tonight, Colonial Policeman's accidental gunfire kills bike rider, injures 2 in Bamenda. Undu clergy's under attack as Reverend Nte Peter survives armed assault days after Pastor Desmond's killing. We see Paul Biya's regime bow to pressure. 60 detainees freed after Tchiroma's ultimatum. We also see the diaspora of French Cameroun declaring new force in French Cameroun, legit defense forces. It emerges amid Paul Biya's Moscow uprising. And in Africa, former Gabonese First Lady and son face corruption trial in absentia amid exile in London. On the foreign scene, historic turn. Syria joins global coalition against ISIS after first ever White House visit. These and more we'll be talking about in the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. To stay with us. Well, another tragic reminder of the recklessness and impunity of colonial police forces unfolded in Old Town Bamenda on Sunday when a French Cameroon policeman carelessly discharged his weapon, killing a commercial bike rider on the spot and injuring 2 women nearby. According to eyewitness accounts, the victims had just dropped off a passenger from Ngomgam and was waiting to receive payment when a bullet pierced through his head. A fatal shot fired from inside the central police station. The impact was immediate. The same gunfire injured the passenger, who was hit in the hand, and a local orange vendor who sustained wounds from a stray bullet. Both women were rushed to the hospital for emergency care, while the young rider's lifeless body was taken to the mortuary amid tears and disbelief. Witnesses described the moments before the shooting as completely avoidable, saying police trainees were seen playing carelessly with rifles moments earlier. Now, their lack of discipline, coupled with the absence of senior supervision, turned what could have been a controlled training environment into a scene of tragedy. Now, this incident once again exposes the deeply unprofessional and lawless culture within the colonial police ranks, a system that too often operates with zero accountability within southern Cameroon. For years, residents of Bamenda and beyond have lamented the reckless use of firearms, intimidation of civilians, and lack of punishment for security forces responsible for such abuses. Human rights advocates have condemned the killing, calling it a direct consequence of impunity. These officers behave this way because they know they'll face no consequence, said a local. In any other functioning system, a life lost through such negligence would demand swift justice. But here, life is treated as disposable, said another local. As of press time, no official statement has been issued by the colonial police hierarchy or the local administration, a silence that many interpret as complicity. Well, as always, we have with us in the studio Barrister Mbeseha, and tonight we also have joining us Commander Sylvester Zama. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to Undaunted.
Good evening. Thank you for having us.
Pleasure, Barrister Mbeseha. We've seen the first report on the ground today talking of this sad incident when officers, Barrister Mbeseha, when they take a life by accident and face no consequence over and over again. Can that still be called policing? Or has this become state-sanctioned annihilation as so many Ambazonians are beginning to see? Would you agree with that, Barrister Mbeseha?
No, I don't agree with you at all. It was not an accident in the first place. It's not an accident. It's the role of the police is supposed to be a civil force. But when you deliberately train policemen to kill, and you send them to the civilian community with live weapons, expect them to shoot. Because why did you even give them the weapons if they're going to be dealing with the civilian population? And so they were trained to shoot. They were trained to kill Ambazonians. That's my view. It is not an accident, I said, because nobody is going to be held accountable because he's just doing his job. What is his job? Killing Ambazonians at will. And so there's no excuse for lack of training. There's no excuse for lack of accountability. It is all in their playbook. And so again, what is the policeman doing with live weapons in the civilian community? If they want to prove us wrong, by my own assessment, let them bring the guy before justice. To me, that is murder. Because when you have somebody carrying live ammunition, what's the result? You fire. What's the end of it? Somebody dies. If the weapon was meant just to disarm people, like they do in other civilized communities, it will be a rubber bullet. Will not be a live ammunition. And so I think it is deliberate. I can compare it. We're now just a week after the elections and their results. We've seen people demonstrating everywhere in Douala, in Garawa, and so on and so forth. How many have they shot and killed? Not very many. Then they come to Bamenda. People are living in the poor driver is driving a through town. There's no rioting going on there. You kill the person and claim that you were trying to fix your gun. No, that's not an excuse for me. I think it is criminal. It is murder. These people should be held accountable, the shooter and his or her boss. That's the larger context of killing Amazonians at will. Over to you.
Said Barrister Mbeseha. Commander Zama, it's a pleasure having you in the studio. We rarely have you here on Undaunted, but we do today, and we're glad about that. You heard the report we just read just now, and it shows this scenario within Amazonian territory, the so-called French Cameroon police taking lives at random. On most accounts, they say it was an accident, and it has happened yet again. What are your thoughts on this particular development?
The police officers over there, they are in a war theater. They are not doing any peacekeeping. They are there to kill as many people as they can, and they've been doing that since 1961, since when they marched into West Cameroun and took over the mobile wing and started killing people. It has not abated. They wantonly kill Amazonians, and they've been doing it with impunity. And the banality of it is like, okay, Cusco will fair. What are you guys going to do? Nothing, they assume. They're not going to get any trial. We've not seen any trial of any police officers from the student riots in the 80s, 70s, and 80s that police shot. They're not going to have any one of those people tried for any killing of an Amazonian. We just have to be mindful that they are there to kill us, and we should be mitigating those people who are trying to kill us by either going on a forward attack to them or take this attack to them, because we've been killed and nobody's been saying anything. They are telling their people, oh, don't kill, we are not going to shoot you because you are French speaking, or we are going to kill only the Amazonians, like this I heard in one audio in Douala. Yes, we are their unwanted rats, like they call us. We are unwanted butterflies or mosquitoes that they must squash. And they are doing it with impunity, sadly so.
So indeed, Commander Zama. Well, we see that yesterday we brought reports of the brutal killings of Pastor Desmond in Undaunted County. While the community was still reeling from that tragedy, another chilling development has unfolded. Reverend Tay Peter, a respected man of God and community voice, has narrowly survived an armed attack allegedly carried out by the French Cameroun occupation forces, who carried out the last killing of that pastor, Desmond. And this one happened late on Sunday night. According to eyewitness account, heavily armed men, believed to be elements of the Colonial Army, stormed the Reverend's residence under the cover of darkness. Shots were fired indiscriminately, leaving Reverend Nte injured in the arms before the assailant fled. He was rushed to a local health facility and is said to be in a stable condition right now. But this latest attack comes barely 48 hours after the assassination of Pastor Desmond, who was reportedly gunned down by the same forces in the same locality. The back-to-back targeting of clergymen has left the people of Undu in palpable fear, with many wondering who might be next. Religious leaders in Amazonia have long served as voices of peace and conscience, often mediating in times of crisis. Their targeting only underscores a dangerous escalation in the war of occupation, where even those who preach forgiveness are not spared from the colonial gun. Community members and right defenders are calling for an independent investigation into both incidents, demanding that the international community hold Yaoundé accountable for its continued crimes against civilians and men of faith. Once again, Ndu bleeds, a town once known for its calm tea hills and gentle people, now turned into a theater of fear under foreign boots. The blood of the innocent, they say, continues to cry out for justice. Now, to Barrister Mbeseha, with men of God now becoming direct targets of the colonial forces, what message does this send? And how should Amazonian communities respond when even the church is no longer sacred? Or would you pass this as just merely coincidence? Two pastors targeted in less than 48 hours. Barrister Mbeseha.
Well, it's not a coincidence. It is something argued here many times before. Coincidentally, the incident of yesterday and the one of today, the victims are pastors, church people. We don't know why, but I would think that might just be that God is trying to send a message to them, because these are the church people who have been going around everywhere and saying that normalcy has returned. Normalcy has returned. Apparently, because they themselves have not faced the bullets. Now, in Ndu, if all this is happening in Ndu, I think Ndu is somewhere in the Mountain Division. That is the area where people like Ngala Gerard come from and claim normalcy, claim that Ndu is peaceful. If Ndu is peaceful, these are church people almost going around in their uniforms. Why are they being dead? From the story, if it is true, it was not a stray bullet. They target these people and shoot them and kill them. First, the apostles, second, the Ambazonians, thirdly, they are the unwanted species. Again, to me, as I've said, this is a message to the front on retirement. This is a message to the kids in active service all the way in Bamenda. You should preach normalcy every day, every night, every evening, every morning. And so is this normalcy that they talk about? Now, this is happening after the so-called presidential elections, just about a week or two ago. What happened? Donga Mountain, I'm sure, voted 100% from Sako Biya. They claimed that was the best government they ever had in the world. And now, these people are dying. The facts speak for themselves. Ambazonia is a dangerous place to go there. Unlike the previous incident we mentioned in Bamenda, where somebody claimed that it was a stray bullet, somebody it was an accident. This is deliberate. Why are they targeting these people? They just want to kill them. They want to send a message that no place is safe in Amazonia. Unlike the previous incident that we just mentioned in Bamenda, they don't even care. Nobody cares to issue even a statement. They say, well, it's a mistake. They don't care. They owe explanation to nobody. They can kill you. They can kill me. As long as you're Ambazonian, that you're of no consequence to the world. Your life has no more meaning for anything. But again, I say, I don't know why there are purely religious people in the past 2 days, but God might be sending a message to them that nothing is normal. That they need, if it is prayer they want to pray, that's okay. It is a public posture that they have been portraying that everything is normal. They've just been lying to themselves because those pastors themselves are now the victims. I've often said here many times before, in the case of the Catholic mission, where Archbishop Andrew goes there and making the story, and Bamenda is so unsafe. The cathedral is full of Christians. Almost every single Christian in the cathedral has suffered the consequence of this occupation. But the church tries to deny it. They pretend not to see it. They talk about peace without justice. They talk about return to normalcy, the fabrication in the religious mind of people who are not competent to talk about war. And so they are testing the bullet of it. We don't pray that it should be hurt, but this is evidence. Might just be, that going forward, the church will change its posture. They will tell the story as it is. If they are not safe, can you be safe? Can I be safe? Just wearing a cassock, with nothing on their neck, is supposed to protect them. It is not protecting them. They are not being safe with that. It tells a bigger story. Nobody is safe in Amazonia. Why? The occupation is real. The harm is deliberate. Over to you.
Yeah, building on what you said, Barrister Mbeseha, now over to you, Commander Zama. Looking at the fact that, as Barrister Mbeseha said, even the church is no longer safe or sacred from the consequences of the ongoing war, what do you advise? How do you advise the peoples of Ambazonia to respond?
It's the same response we've given for the past 9 years that we've been at war. We are at war. It's not a bazaar that you can go out freely, go in and come out anytime you want. We are telling our people to be safe, practice, go out in groups so that in case something happens, there should be an eyewitness. We are asking them to be mindful of their surrounding, to be aware where they are going. Keep a foresight. Don't use your cell phones while you're out of your house or walking, because it gives you a peripheral view that is impeded. The idea that they are going after religious personalities in Amazonia is not new. Bishop Dongmo, who was one of some of the avant-gardes in that struggle for liberation of the Cameroons, was killed by the same government, by the Ahijo government of La Republique. We've seen people killed in Bali from churches. Some have been killed in the church, and the heads of these organizations, Catholic, Presbyterian, Baptist, none of them have dared to say anything regarding that. They've never come to the comfort of their parishioners. I wonder when it's going to be time that if these people cannot lead their parishioners through these troubling times, I think it's time for the parishioners to abandon them, because they are not being led. They are not being taken out of the despair they are in. The killing of these pastors is just an aspect of the war. They are doing what they sent there to do. They are sent there to kill. And another reasoning for this is, especially in the Do area, what is happening is they are trying to make this as a sectarian war, because they are bringing in the Fulanis and the Bororos from Nigeria to come and kill people in Donga Mantum. And in revenge killings, some people are going to go after the Bororos who have been there for centuries. That's not the problem. We should try to avoid those kind of confrontations. We should confront those who are out there to kill our citizens. And ASAs should be able to track down these people and try to do preemptive move before they come to kill our citizens. As it is, nobody is safe. It's war, and war doesn't have any mind of its own. It's crazy, and it's happening in Amazonia, and it's been going on. So we are telling our people, either buy your own gun and stay to say protect yourself, or you stay hidden. That's the only way you can survive this, by either hiding or applying the rules of war.
Commander Zama well said, it is up to the people and the ASA to protect themselves in this mindless war. Well, we are moving away from what is happening in the southern Cameroons over to French Cameroon, because with the post-election and post-result announcement, there's been tension. We saw yesterday, we brought the story of opposition leader Issa Tchiroma Bakari, his 48-hour ultimatum to President Paul Biya when he demanded the release of all citizens who were detained in the aftermath of French Cameroon's disputed October 12th presidential election. Well, let's take a listen to refresh our minds.
Out of law, unlawfully, you have arrested and jailed. Failing to doing it, Cameroonians will find themselves in a legitimate defense and free to undertake whatever will enable them to recover their freedom and to free their daughters and sons who are illegally imprisoned, jailed somewhere. This is the message I want to share. Cameroonians, past 48 hours, as I said, they refuse to comply. Cameroonians, they are in legitimate position to defend themselves, to defend their family, and to go retrieve their daughters and sons who are unlawfully and illegally have been arrested and jailed.
Well, that was Issa Tchiroma Bakari making those declarations and giving the ultimatum. Now, while some dismissed Tchiroma's threats as mere rhetoric, today's event suggests otherwise. In a significant development, the French Cameroonian government has released approximately 60 individuals arrested in Ngondere following the contested vote. The announcement was made by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanga Anji, during a working visit to the Adamawa regional capital. According to him, those released were mostly minors and would be freed under parental supervision. Although the minister made no direct mention of Tchiroma's ultimatum, political observers say the timing leaves little doubt. The move is widely seen as a knee-jerk reaction to mounting political pressure from the opposition and growing concern amongst international actors monitoring the post-election fallout. Atanga Nji's insistence that peace reigns in Adamawa contrasts sharply with reports from local sources who describe an atmosphere of intimidation, continued arrests, and fear amongst opposition supporters. Witnesses allege that security forces continue to detain individuals suspected of backing Tchiroma, despite official claims of calm. Human rights organizations have also condemned what they call selective justice, urging the regime to release all those arbitrarily detained and to end the culture of repression that has characterized Paul Biya's decades in power. The release of these 60 detainees, though limited, underscores the growing unease within the Biya administration, and analysts say that the government's decision may be an attempt to diffuse public outrage without making any genuine concessions. A tactic familiar to those who have watched the regime's long pattern of deflection and control. For now, the situation remains highly volatile. Opposition supporters are demanding the complete release of political prisoners and the recognition of what they call the true outcome of the election. Meanwhile, international observers continue to warn that any further delay or suppression could deepen French Cameroon's political crisis and widen its legitimacy gap both at home and abroad. Now, we have this question to ask looking at this progress, as we want to call it, Barrister Mbeseha, looking at the legal part of it. Now, is the release of 60 detainees a genuine gesture of goodwill, or would you agree that it is a calculated move by a regime struggling to contain the growing pressure from Tchiroma and the international community? And what does this mean for the people of both Cameroons, especially French Cameroon?
I don't think it's been a calculated move. It's not a calculated move. It's a frantic move. These are Tanganji who think that he cannot bend. But he gets to Adamawa, that is in the north. And for his own safety, he fears that they will cut off his neck there. He orders the people to be released. And stupidly, he tells us that they were minors. What were minors doing in their detention in the first place? What did minors do? If it's elections, what minors got to do with elections? Can Atanga give us an answer to that? Certainly not. And then stupidly again he says, like, select my words carefully. He goes over that to say that he's releasing them under parental supervision. Does the minister have the power to order parental supervision in case of crimes? Parental supervision is ordered from the courts. If a child does something wrong, and is in court, and the court finds, as a matter of fact, there's a child, he's not mature enough to face imprisonment, the court would order parental supervision. And so what is rambling there and calling it parental supervision is a shameless way of not wanting to admit that the threat from Tchiroma. Last evening, I remember saying here, that Tchiroma is not the Tchiroma they knew, that he used to sit in cabinet with him 6 months ago. That's a different man entirely. The eyes of the world are on him. The eyes of Africa are on him. The eyes of freedom-loving Cameroonians are on that guy. And so what Mr. Atanga is doing in order to protect that, this and that, they will release all those people, or, as I said yesterday, as Tchiroma says, they will face the wrath of the people, not the wrath of Tchiroma. No. Tchiroma said the people will take their own action to defend themselves. Defending themselves against who? The people defending themselves against a government, their own government, a government that put the people under siege, the government that has become a torturer, the killer of its own people. As I said yesterday, and I repeat today, any word that comes out of the mouth of President-elect Tchiroma should be taken seriously. And so that is it. The 48 hours is not yet expired. They are trembling. They are releasing them in droves. They think that will be enough. I guess Tchiroma has these great figures. We wish he has them. And as I said yesterday, I will repeat today. Let him carry his threat to fruition. because that might be the only opportunity where the ordinary human being living in that territory called Cameroon can be safe, can enjoy freedom, can say that "Oh, I'm part of the world." Because this is one of the few places in the world, if not the only one, where the government that is meant to rule the people becomes an imprisonment camp, where the police and gendarmes supposed to protect the people kill them with impunity, where the administrators sent to administer the people civilly become themselves abductors. They abduct people under something they call administrative detention, keep them when they keep you as long as they wish, extort money from you or your family if they so desire, and go free. This is a jungle state. Again, that's happening in Cameroon. We are Amazonians. That is one of the reasons why we fight, and we will fight forever. Never to be part of that type of jungle government. Never to be part of that such of a state, such a lawless state with a lawless government. And so Tchiroma is there. At last, we can say, is my opinion, Atanganji has made his march. Let him not just release the people, let him go and catch Tchiroma, and we see. And so that is Atanganji, the first criminal suspect, if you so wish, is there ranting around. All his other colleagues in Bamenda there have kept quiet. They are mute. They are afraid of Tchiroma because they don't know what he can do. They don't even know what authorities, what international organizations support him. And so every good thing, every bad thing will come to an end. The 43-year reign of terror is certainly coming to the end. And the Atanganjis might not take so long before they are held individually accountable for their own acts, for what they said to promote violence, for what they did themselves to promote violence. The courts are watching. The international community is watching. Not Atanganji alone. He has so many colleagues. He has so many accomplices. The doors of the courts will soon open, and we don't know who falls first. But to be very sure, in my belief, Atanganji will be one of the first people to face trial. Over to you.
Yeah, Barrister Mbeseha, indeed, I think everybody observing might have noticed that indeed Atanganji has met his match in Tchiroma. And speaking of the fact that Tchiroma should indeed bring his declarations to fruition, talking about the power of the people. There's a breaking development from French Cameroon that shows the political crisis escalating in unexpected ways. A United States-based diaspora figure, Bamenda, has announced the creation of the Legit Defense Forces, a self-declared armed formation claiming to include 100,000 soldiers armed with guns and ammunition, prepared to defend citizens and challenge the actions of President Paul Biya's military forces. According to verified sources, the announcement was made through social media and diaspora channels and is directly linked to the political warnings issued by opposition leader Tchiroma Bakari. In mid-October, Tchiroma had issued Earlier, 2 days ago, Tchiroma had issued a 48-hour ultimatum to Paul Biya demanding the release of all citizens detained following the disputed election, warning that if the regime failed to comply, the people would have no choice but to resort to self-defense. The creation of the Legit Defense Forces can now be seen as a concrete manifestation of that warning. In his announcement, Bamenda framed the force as a defender of citizens' democratic rights, promising to protect those who have been arbitrarily arrested or oppressed by the Biya regime. Now, while the claim of 100,000 armed personnel is dramatic, sources confirm that the group has begun organizing volunteers and liaising with diaspora networks to mobilize resources. The exact operational capacity of the forces, though, remain to be verified on the ground. But then analysts warn that even if the force is still in its early stages, the announcement has significant political and psychological implications. It signals a growing willingness amongst French Cameroon's diaspora to take direct action to protect its civilians and enforce accountability, putting further pressure on the Biya administration. It also raises the possibility of escalation as the regime may respond aggressively to perceived armed threats, increasing the risk to civilians and detainees. For the people of French Cameroon, the emergence of the legit defense forces represent a tangible step from rhetoric to potential action. It is a signal that the call for Biya must go is not limited to words or protest, but may now involve organized self-defense. Observers note that such movements, even in early formation, can influence government calculations, shape public perception, and embolden citizens who feel silenced by arbitrary arrest and political repression. You see, the coming days will be critical. Monitoring will focus on the forces' coordination, recruitment, and material capability, as well as the regime's response, both in terms of security, operations, and political messaging, while the situation remains fluid. The creation of the legit defense forces marks a turning point in the unfolding political drama in French Cameroon. Now, this question is to you, Commander Zama. Given your experience with organized self-defense in southern Cameroon, what insights can you share about how this emergence of armed diaspora forces in French Cameroon might shape the political struggle, influence government responses, and affect the prospects for democratic change if it is true?
I think most of the power belongs to the people. The people, all this is in their hands. No amount of guns can defeat a determined population. I just want to put this in perspective. The French, who are being finger-pointed for being the puppeteer behind this government, in the 18th century, in 1789, climbed 25 meters high to get into the palace of King Louis the 16th to throw him out of power, and then they killed him later. In every government that has been toppled by the people. In most of the time, there might be some gun-carrying people, citizens in that fight. But most of the time is the strong will of the people, the strong will and the desire that death will not prevent them from getting liberty. They are prepared to satisfy their lives for the future of their own progeny. They have to do that because you don't negotiate with the dictators. The dictators must be driven out of power. You have the likes of Biya have to go, like Idi Amin will go, like Ben Ali will go, like Bokassa will go, like Philip Marcos. So all these, Chile, the dictator, what do you call it, Pinochet, all went out of power, not because of the gun, but because of the will of the people. Once the people decided that death was not going to stop us from having the life that we are ordained to have, then they will have to realize that they can take down this government. They can take down this government if Mr. Tchiroma make a consistent effort of this 10 days or whatever, how many days of sit-down strikes or ghost towns, and it will cripple the government. The government cannot work without money. If they cannot have money, they cannot pay for their Israeli mercenaries who are there guarding him. If they don't have any money, they will not be able to do that. Those people will be quick running out the door when there's no money to pay them. So if they can cripple that economy to rebuild it sometime later, that's fine for them. But the longer they sit and wait for Cameroon to catch its bearings, then they will have to meet a much more stronger resistance than fighting that fight now. We know that the king, President Paul Biya, is naked out there. We know that he's demented. We know that he has people behind pulling the strings on his behalf. But this is the time that they know all the facts. They have the facts. So they have to pull the trigger now. If they have to wait another month, 2, 3, 4 months, this is going to be a losing proposition. It's only going to make more people to die, more expenses for the community, and more destruction. The people should be in the streets right now, making their lives miserable, right at their palaces, not sitting on the streets. They should go to these people's homes. If they cannot come and go sleep in peace in their homes, they should be at their gates, banging at them, making them have sleepless nights to know that the country is not at peace. That's the only way. And if they have to think, they will have to organize. It takes a little bit longer to organize an army to march them into. The people are there, the hearts are there, the feet and the hands and the voices are there to make these people to be ashamed on a daily basis. And let them not sleep. If they don't sleep, so be it. They will realize, oops, I think it's time to do something.
Those indeed are critical strategies you mentioned, Commander Zama. The will of the people indeed is powerful than any amount of guns the government can get. Now, Barrister Mbeseha, with the diaspora now organizing armed self-defense in response to Paul Biya's crackdown, how should citizens and opposition leaders balance the pursuit of democratic change with the very real risk of escalation and civilian harm? Barrister Mbeseha.
Well, I think what is going on in Cameroun with the diaspora is vindicated ambassador has been going on for the past 9 years. Most cases, diaspora is in. Because those people in diaspora, they have at least intelligence. They can compare different things. They are in different safety zones. And so the diaspora plays a very big part, especially against dictators. And so that's what we've been doing. And I think Cameroon has criticized us. So, well, what do we talk to? They call us rascals in America, in Europe, and everywhere. Now they are facing the same music. I remember they were facing the seminar who broke down the embassy was all abroad. And so when the diaspora gets in, the tables will turn, whether they like it or not. Just as Commander Zama said, when the people's power is concerned, no weapons, no artillery can defeat the people's power. The people will always prevail. That's why we say here all the time, the people have the government they deserve. If they decide to bring it down, you will go nowhere. They don't need to go too far. Let me look at Cote d'Ivoire. Maybe they don't know. The crisis in the Cote d'Ivoire started in 2002. There was a general dictator called General Gay, who called elections and wanted to manipulate the results. When the returns were coming in, he found out he was losing. He cancelled the elections midway. And what happened? The people, not the military, all came out and interestingly chased the president out of the presidency with his wife. He had nowhere to go. He was running on foot. And they killed him and the wife. I happened to visit the house he had been building there as the president in his village when I was there, somewhere near Man, some 60 kilometers away from Abidjan. And so the people have the power to change the things. Again, their fuel, their engine is the diaspora. Because in addition to just funding them, encouraging them, the diaspora has external connections to different parts of the world in technology, in diplomacy, and otherwise. And so the diaspora in Cameroon has always behaved French. Even those who were trained in Washington, D.C., in New York, in California, wherever, when they go back to Cameroon, their example, their measuring rod is Paris. In Paris, it is like this. In Paris, it is like this. But the cables are turning. If you saw the Cameroon diaspora, what they did to them, to the embassy in Canada, in South Africa, in Belgium, even in France, then Cameroon people, those dictators, I just wish and pray that Mr. Paul Biya and his dear wife, she ought to have the power, the physical energy to escape if they can. Otherwise, the risks are high. They might find themselves being hung in the streets. The diaspora is important. You cannot ignore it, especially in these type of circumstances where there is actually political genocide, political armed robbery, commit crimes to get elections in their way without fear. They don't even escape, they don't even pretend. They do it publicly. And that's why Mala Tanganji, who just mentioned a few minutes ago, should be looking for a way to hide. I hope he's doing it. Because that's the first time in the history of the world that I know where a government minister will pirate their own website himself, criminally, and admit it just to overturn the results of a desired election. It has never happened anywhere else in the world that I know. And so this is a naked criminal parading the streets. His place is, the best place for him is a jail, and a good jail, a maximum prison, not to add in terms of the law, with hard labor. And so the people of Cameroon will get the government they want, as Mr. Zama said, if they keep doing what they are doing. But time is of the essence, as he says, because you have to act when the iron is hot. So we hope they will succeed. We don't know what their next strategy is, but up to this point, I think they are succeeding. They are on the right path. And so, poor Atanganji, poor Mr. Paul Biya and his friends and Muyos and wives, the lines are drawn. Whether they will defeat Tchiroma, we shall doubt, because Tchiroma is for the people. No single individual can defeat the whole people, no matter how strong you are, no matter how intelligent you are. Even Louis XIV did not. And so, congratulations to Mr. Tchiroma. Encouragement to Mr. Tanganji and his friends. We wish them good luck. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Barrister Mbeseha. And if Issa Tchiroma wins, it indeed would be a win, not just for French Cameroon, but also for Southern Cameroons, because we've heard him speak about Southern Cameroon's origin and what he hopes to do when he wins. So it's going to be a win for both Cameroons. But until then, we can only expect more good news on that front. For now, I want to say thank you for joining in on tonight's Undaunted, Barrister Mbeseha and Commander Zama. It was a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, with that, we head into the next report. We see that at a time when voices across the Amazonian front lines and diaspora echo with calls for unity, this national address by Dr. Martin Mungwa comes as both a reaffirmation and a gentle correction on the voice of Amazonia. His message is clear. Unity is sacred, but it must have structure. It is a reminder that legitimacy cannot be traded for sentiment, and that any initiative seeking to rebuild cohesion must do so under the umbrella of lawful authority. Dr. Martin Mungwa's address follows the recent announcement of the Amazonian Unity Initiative by a self-styled working group, a development that has stirred hope, skepticism, and confusion in equal measure. While acknowledging the sincerity behind such moves, the Secretary of State said his tone emphasized one central truth, that without institutional discipline, unity risks becoming disarray. The speech also touches on a painful but necessary subject, trust and accountability, particularly in the area of funding and representation. His call for transparency, lawful oversight, and coordinated engagement within existing government frameworks resonates as both a defense of order and an invitation to genuine reform. Now, most notably, the broadcast underlines that Ambazonia's path to freedom depends not on scattered enthusiasm, but on structured purpose, on turning passion into institution and ideas into policy. In this light, Dr. Martin Mungwa's message stands as a guiding compass for a nation still defining its internal coherence amidst external war and internal disillusionment. Now we bring you the full address by Dr. Martin Mungwa titled The Ambazonia Working Group's Unity Initiative. Let's take a listen.
This is Dr. Martin Mungwa, Commission Secretary for Communications and Diplomacy for the Government of the Federal Republic of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia in Exile, bringing you today's national broadcast on truth in resistance and clarity in crisis. The Ambazonia Working Group's Unity Initiative. Fellow Ambazonians, on Saturday, November 8, 2025, a press statement was issued by a group calling itself the Ambazonia Working Group, announcing what they called the Ambazonia Unity Initiative. The government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia acknowledges that announcement and wishes to speak clearly to our citizens at home and across the world. Unity is sacred, but it must have structure. Unity is the heartbeat of our national aspiration. Without unity, no people can win freedom. Yet unity that is not anchored in lawful institutions and constitutional order only creates confusion. The government appreciates the good intentions of those who desire to see our movement strong again. But we must say it plainly. Any initiative that operates outside the recognized structures of the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is not a path to unity. It is a path back to the disorganization that has cost our people so much. We acknowledge good intent, but we must protect legitimacy. Many of those involved in this so-called unity initiative are patriots motivated by sincere frustration over fragmentation and miscommunication. Your desire for renewed coordination is honorable. However, Ambazonia already has a lawful government, a government established by the will of the people and sustained by their sacrifice. Our institutions exist to organize national policy, defense, and diplomacy, so that the world knows exactly who speaks for Ambazonia. Parallel committees and new alliances that ignore these institutions only weaken our voice before the international community and discourage the home front. Funding and accountability. Another concern is the silence of the working group about its sources of funding and oversight. Ambazonians have given with sacrifice and trust. That trust must never again be betrayed through secret fundraising or unregulated collections. Let it be clearly understood, no initiative may raise funds or operate in the name of Ambazonia without authorization from the government's treasury and audit departments. Transparency is not a favor. It is a duty to our people, shared responsibility for reform. We also acknowledge that trust has been strained over the years, not only because of outside groups, but also because of gaps within our own communication. The government has listened and has begun reforms to strengthen transparency and bring our citizens closer to decision-making processes. Under the leadership of President Dr. Samuel Sako, the government remains open to dialogue with all patriotic Ambazonians, provided that such dialogue respects constitutional authority and the unity of the state. The path forward. The way forward is clear. Recognize and engage the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia as the lawful custodian of our people's sovereignty. Channel goodwill and energy into existing national structures, not parallel ones. Promote dialogue under lawful supervision, not competition for visibility. Insist on transparency and ethical funding as the foundation of public trust. We are not fighting personalities. We are defending order, discipline, and the soul of our nation. Conclusion, unity with direction. The struggle for Ambazonia's freedom will not be won through recycled committees or WhatsApp coalitions. It will be won through disciplined institutions that stand on continuity, legitimacy, and sacrifice. Ambazonia needs every son and daughter. But we must speak with one voice and move under one government. Let us turn passion into structure, ideas into policy, and sacrifice into results. This has been Dr. Martin Mangua, Commission Secretary for Communications and Diplomacy for the Government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia in exile, speaking for the voice of Ambazonia Radio. Truth in resistance and clarity in crisis. Until Commission Secretary for Communications and Diplomacy for the Government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia in exile.
All right, that was one of the voice of Ambazonia, one message on the voice of Ambazonia talking of unity. But then at a moment when questions of legitimacy, unity and direction dominate national conversation, we see that this editorial, another editorial from the voice of Ambazonia, cuts through the noise with rare clarity. This voice of Ambazonia message captures the mood of a movement tested by internal tensions and external pressure, reminding citizens that leadership in a liberation struggle is not proven by comfort, but by endurance. With sharp historical context and moral conviction, the piece argues that Ambazonia's survival has depended on structure and steady hands, not shifting alliances or empty rhetoric. Now, more than a defense of any one individual, another broadcast reawakens the principle that true leadership is measured by service, accountability, and staying power amid storms. It connects the lessons of history from Enderley's warnings to today's realities. showing how easily hope can be lost when the pursuit of unity strays from lawful order. In essence, this is both a reflection and a call that as Ambazonia marches on through the fire, it must hold fast to the values that build its resilience, truth, integrity, and disciplined purpose. Now let's listen to the full editorial titled Leadership Tested by Fire, Why President Sako Still Commands Legitimacy, presented by MC Cretan for Voice of Ambazonia. Let's take a listen.
Good day to all freedom-loving people of Ambazonia, from the home front to every corner of our great global family. This is MC Crichton for Voice of Ambazonia International, Truth in Resistance and Clarity in Crisis. Today's editorial carries a powerful headline, Leadership Tested by Fire, Why President Sako Still Commands Legitimacy. There comes a time in every liberation journey when leadership is not judged by applause, but by endurance. The Ambazonian struggle has reached such a time. We have seen promises made and broken, negotiations that began with hope but ended in betrayal, and alliances that collapsed under the weight of pride and secrecy. Back in 2018, our people rallied under one voice, believing unity had come at last. But that dream quickly met deception. Some leaders walked into traps laid by the occupier, thinking good faith would be returned in kind. Instead, they found chains, and Ambazonia learned a painful truth, that freedom cannot be negotiated from captivity. From that moment, Ambazonians woke up. We now live in an informed world, a connected generation where truth can no longer be hidden. No one, and I mean no one, can sell or surrender the destiny of 8 million people behind closed doors. This struggle has matured. Our people now understand that legitimacy is not about loud voices or tribal claims. It is about service, endurance, and integrity. Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako has become a symbol of that endurance. Through storms of criticism and waves of misinformation, he has held the Ambazonian government together when others fell silent. Under his watch, the government in exile did not collapse, it reorganized. Refugees in Nigeria continued to receive help. Institutions of governance survived. Our defense structures across the 13 counties remained coordinated. Where others abandoned the field, Sako built continuity. Where some chased titles, he strengthened systems. That is why, despite every attempt to divide or discredit, the majority of Ambazonians, both at home and abroad, still rally behind his leadership. The recent November 8 meeting with Skakov serves as both a mirror and a message. It showed that the longing for reconciliation still beats in the heart of our nation, yet it also revealed how fragile unity can become when not anchored in constitutional order. The government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia welcomes every sincere effort at collaboration, but unity must be grounded in truth, not nostalgia, in law, not sentiment. The lesson from November 8 is clear. Any effort toward togetherness must respect the institutions that have kept the struggle alive. Real unity strengthens legitimate structures. It does not compete with them. Across the border, the downfall of Joshua Osei offers another lesson. Once paraded as an Anglophone hope within La République du Cameroun's political establishment, Osei's collapse has exposed the emptiness of politics without conviction. He promised to end the Anglophone crisis in 100 days, yet he never once named the root of the problem, the occupation of Ambazonia. In trying to please the regime, he lost the people. And in trying to stand with the people, he lost the regime. Osei's fall is not just the end of a political career, it is the burial of an illusion. It reminds every Ambazonian that no salvation can come from the colonial system. Those who try to reform it from within will only be used, exhausted, and discarded. The struggle for liberation is not a footnote in someone else's politics. It is a destiny written by a free people. And history itself gives us context. Just as Dr. E.M.L. Enderley warned John N.U. Foncha in 1961 against the nightmare of joining La République du Cameroun, today Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako continues on that same path of wisdom, standing against the deception of false unity and the temptation of political shortcuts. What Enderley foresaw, Sako now confirms, that the future of Ambazonia lies not in assimilation, but in freedom. Now, let's talk about negotiations, a subject as delicate as it is decisive. Peace will not come from conversations held in chains. True dialogue must begin with freedom, equality, and honesty. Ambazonians have seen enough to know that any negotiation without consent, justice, and transparency is simply another trap. And Dr. Sako has been clear, Ambazonia will talk, yes, but as a people, not as prisoners. Dr. Sako's leadership has never been about self-promotion. It is about protecting the vision of a free, self-governing Ambazonia. He understands that independence is not just about flags or ceremonies. It is about restoring dignity and proving that even in exile, a nation can organize itself with discipline, compassion, and hope. In times of confusion, he has offered calm. In times of betrayal, he has stood firm. That is why history will remember him as a leader who did not run when things got hard, but rather, when the fire came, he stood and led through it. And so, my people, as we continue this long road to Biya, let us remember, leadership is not a title, it is a test, and those who pass that test do so through service, not noise. This has been an editorial presented by MC Crichton for Voice of Ambazonia International. Truth in resistance and clarity in crisis. Stay tuned, stay focused, and stay free.
Thank you, MC Crichton, for that wonderful message there. Well, coming up next will be news on the African scene. Stay tuned. In Gabon, the wife and son of former President Ali Bongo Ondimba, Sylvia Bongo Ondimba, and Redin Bongo Valentin are being tried in absentia on sweeping corruption charges that have drawn regional and international attention. The high-profile trial, which opened on Monday before a special criminal court in Libreville, is expected to run throughout the week. Both Sylvia and Redin are among 13 defendants accused of embezzling public funds and exploiting state resources for personal enrichment during Ali Bongo's presidency. We see that prosecutors say the group faces 12 counts, including money laundering, active corruption, and forgery of official documents. The case is part of a broader anti-graft campaign launched by President Brice Oligui Nguema, the military leader who seized power in an August 2023 coup that ended the Bongo family's 55-year political dynasty. Sylvia and Nureddin Bongo were arrested shortly after the coup and detained for about 20 months before being released in May 2025. They have since fled to London, where they now live in exile. Both have refused to return to Gabon for the proceedings, claiming that the trial is politically motivated and designed for show. In a July statement, the Bongos accused the Gabonese authorities of criminal and cruel treatment, alleging they endured torture and psychological abuse while imprisoned. Nureddin, who has been active on social media, recently posted hidden camera footages purportedly showing mistreatment by the current administration, a move that provoked a sharp response from Libreville. The Gabonese presidency has since accused him of trying to destabilize the country and undermine the post-coup transition. The outcome of the ongoing trial is still being closely watched as it tests the credibility of the junta's anti-corruption drive and the future of the once powerful Bongo political network. While in Ghana, we see that after it has welcomed the return of more than 130 gold and bronze artifacts looted during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, marking a deeply symbolic moment for cultural restitution across Africa. The priceless items, including royal regalia, ceremonial drums, gold weights, and ornaments, were formally handed over to Asante King Otumfuo Osei Tutu II at the Manhia Palace Museum in Kumasi on Sunday. The return collection came from both Britain and South Africa, with significant contributions from the Anglo Gold Ashanti Mining Company, which repatriated several pieces it had acquired on the open market. Other artifacts were returned by the Barbier Mula Museum in Geneva, which had been holding its items assembled by Swiss collector Joseph Muller as far back as 1904. A few pieces were also donated by Hermione Waterfield, a renowned British art historian and founder of the Tribal Art Department at Christie's in 1971. Among the notable items is a wooden drum believed to have been seized by British troops during the 19th siege of Kumasi, when colonial forces looted the Ashanti royal palace following a violent uprising. The artifacts, which date from 45 to 160 years old, reflect the Ashanti kingdom's complex governance structures, spiritual beliefs, and the central role of gold as a symbol of power and identity. The Ashanti Kingdom, once one of West Africa's most powerful empires, it ruled large parts of modern-day Ghana from the 17th to early 20th century before being annexed by Britain in 1901. Now, speaking at the ceremony, King Oseitu II praised the gesture as a step towards healing the wounds of colonial injustice and urged other institutions to follow suit in returning African heritage pieces held in foreign collections. Now on to Somalia, the self-declared Republic of Somaliland has announced that all visas and travel authorizations issued by neighboring Somalia are now invalid for entry into its territory, a move seen as part of its broader campaign to assert sovereignty and independence. In a directive issued on Sunday, Somaliland's Immigration and Border Control Agency stated that foreign nationals carrying Somalia-issued travel documents will no longer be permitted entry. Instead, travelers are required to obtain visas on arrival at Hargeisa or Berbera international airports or through Somaliland's embassies and missions abroad. The notice came a day after President Abdirahman Mohamed Abdullahi Iro publicly dismissed Somalia's newly introduced e-visa system as legally null and void. During a visit to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Iro reaffirmed Somaliland's sovereignty over its land, sea, and airspace, declaring that the control of its skies was a matter of national dignity and strategic importance. It said our nation will neither compromise nor delegate the guardianship of its skies. The president said in a firm statement on Saturday, effective Monday, all aircraft entering or leaving Somaliland airspace must obtain official clearance from Somaliland's aviation authorities, signaling a decisive step towards operational autonomy from Mogadishu. Although Somaliland declared independence from Somalia in 1991, it remains unrecognized by the international community. However, the territory has maintained its own government, currency, and security forces, as well as diplomatic representations in Kenya, Ethiopia, and the United States. Observers say the latest directives are intended to consolidate Somaliland's administrative control and reinforce its bid for international recognition amid ongoing tensions with Somalia's federal government. And with that, we head on to the news across the rest of the globe. On the foreign scene, after weeks of political gridlock, the longest government shutdown in the United States history appears to be edging towards an end. Following a rare moment of bipartisanship in the Senate, in a 60-40 vote on Monday night, several Democratic senators broke ranks to join Republicans in approving a compromise spending bill aimed at reopening federal operations. The move has sparked backlash from progressive members of the Democratic Party who accused their colleagues of capitulating to Republican demands without securing sufficient concessions on key social programs. Since the shutdown shutdown began on October 1st, more than 1 million federal employees have gone without pay. Essential government services, including social security processing, food aid distribution, and environmental inspections, have been severely disrupted. Air travel has faced some of the harshest effects, with more than 1,000 flights cancelled daily due to staff shortages at airports and air traffic control towers. Public frustration has mounted as the economic toll continues to ripple through multiple sectors, costing the United States economy an estimated $20 billion in lost productivity and delayed contracts. The legislation now moves to the House of Representatives, where lawmakers could vote as early as Wednesday to send it to President Donald Trump, his desk. If signed into law, it would mark the end of a 42-day shutdown that has tested public patience and deepened partisan divisions in Washington. While on the other side of the United States, we're seeing a stunning diplomatic shift. Syria has formally joined the global coalition against the Islamic State, ISIS. Following a landmark meeting between Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara and the United States President Donald Trump in Washington, the announcement marks a new chapter in the United States-Syria relations, which have been frozen for more than a decade amid the country's brutal civil war and terrorism concerns. Shara, who rose to power after his rebel movement toppled Bashar al-Assad late last year, became the first Syrian leader ever to visit the White House since the nation's independence in 1946. This trip, which followed weeks of secret negotiations, signals a potential thaw between Washington and Damascus after years of hostility. Now, until recently, Shara's faction, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the HTS, was designated as a terrorist organization due to its past affiliation with Al-Qaeda. The United States State Department removed the group from its terrorism list just days before the visit, clearing the way for formal talks. A senior U.S. administration official confirmed that Washington will also restore diplomatic relations with Damascus as part of a broader strategy to strengthen counter-terrorism, intelligence sharing, and regional stability. Analysts say the move could reshape alliances in the Middle East, where shifting power dynamics, including Iran's influence and Turkey's role in northern Syria, continue to redefine the post-ISIS landscape. While in India, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has condemned what he called a conspiracy behind Monday's deadly car explosion near Delhi's iconic Red Fort, vowing that those responsible will not escape justice. The powerful blast ripped through a busy intersection near the 17th century fortress, killing at least 8 people and injuring 19 others. Several vehicles were engulfed in flames as thick smoke filled the skies over central Delhi. Police cordoned off the area and forensic experts began combing through the debris early Tuesday morning. Authorities have yet to determine the exact cause of the explosion. Initial reports suggest that it may have been triggered by an improvised explosive device, an IED, placed inside one of the vehicles. Though investigators are exploring other possibilities, including a targeted attack. The attack has reignited national debate over India's domestic security and intelligence preparedness, particularly as it comes months after the April Pahalgam massacre in Indian-administered Kashmir, where 26 civilians were killed in a militant raid. That incident had already escalated tensions between New Delhi and Islamabad. In a televised address, Modi described the blast as an assault on India's unity and peace, urging calm while promising swift justice. It says our security agencies will uncover every detail. The enemies of peace, internal or external, will be brought to book, he said. The explosion marks the first major terror-related incident in India this year and has prompted an emergency review of security protocols in major cities ahead of the upcoming national holidays. And with that, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major headlines. And Undaunted tonight, we saw Colonial Policeman's accidental gunfire, killing bike rider and injuring 2 in Bamenda. Undu clergy is under attack as Reverend Nte Peter survives armed assault days after Pastor Desmond's killing. We also saw Biya's regime bowing to pressure with 60 detainees freed after Tchiroma's ultimatum, and the French Cameroun diaspora declaring new forces, legit defense forces, emerging amid Biya must go uprising. And in Africa, we saw former Gabonese First Lady and son facing corruption trial in absentia amid exile in London. On the global scene, a historic turn as Syria joins global coalition against ISIS after first ever White House visit. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.